Okay, it'd be response to Trick. Response to some comments he made on my videos. He's quoting me, "How can one puppet have authority over another puppet?" He responds, "We are puppets that do not live in bubbles. If what you do has a negative effect on another life form, people can and should put a stop or a change to that behavior." I agree completely. That includes people thinking they have a right to something they don't at the expense of another. Right. Okay, but I think this must be about the tax thing. But yeah, if you can show how one person, like if I go out there and work for a wage, show me how I'm harming someone else by doing that. I mean, I guess at this point, I mean, you know, you've been talking about appropriating more natural resources than they need at the expense of others. Which I think that's a different argument. I don't see how taxing people fixes that. I mean, the government actually gives the rights to people to have all those natural resources, right? I mean, that's the way our system works. You know, somehow they can purchase all these natural resources for themselves. That's legal. I mean, maybe I could see maybe having a democratic or public control of the natural resources, but that's not a tax. I'm specifically talking about taxation here. Anyhow, he quotes me, or you quote me, "An anarchist exploiting labor would be holding a double standard." You say, how is it a double standard? In anarchism, if someone is willing to work in horrid conditions for a few pieces of bread because of the dystopia such a free market would cause, from an anarchist perspective, such exchange isn't exploitation if both parties agree on the work for bread bits. Well, see, we're getting into something. I mean, the reason the laborer, well, see, an anarchist shouldn't do that to somebody else. You're saying, the anarchist is saying, well, I got lucky and I'm in a position to exploit labor, so I'm going to do it. But you know, it's my understanding of anarchy. It was like founded on, capitalists exploiting labor, because there's so many laborers out there. That's nothing. I've never seen. I've seen it. I think one of the Wikipedia pages talks about it just briefly. The more labor, there's a market for labor, right? If you got a shitload of laborers out there, it's going to knock the wage down in this free market. And of course, that's why I say laborers especially should not be reproducing like there's no tomorrow. That's the problem. It's why I say it all goes back to antinatalism. That is the long-term and even short-term solution to everything. Just stop making so many of us. Okay? I mean, it's the 21st century. We don't need to keep reproducing like we're living on the farm. And you go on. In fact, there is no exploitation without the idea of labor laws that point out such. Anything goes. So I'm not saying anything goes. Like I said, I have a problem with the anarcho-capitalist. It just seems like a contradiction in terms. But yeah, I read an article by the Austrian School, well, posted on the Mises.org. It talked about how important labor is, because you go out there and that's how you get to own things, is by laboring. But then, once you got the capital, then risk is the big thing. All of a sudden, the risk is more important than labor. They give an example of a dude labors to create an axe, so that axe is his, which is cool. And then he goes out and cuts down a bunch of trees, but now he needs to get them downriver to the person who wants to buy the trees or whatever. And now he's got to hire labor to get the trees down the river. Well, now risk is more important than the labor. He's taking the risk that the logs might not. He's going to pay the laborers up. Well, actually nowadays the labor doesn't get paid until the work's done. But whatever. I guess he's doing the laborers a favor by giving them money, even though there's no risk for them. They're going to get their money whether the trees make it there unharmed or not. Well, what's wrong with, see, there's the anarcho-syndicalism, which says that in any business operation, the risk is shared by all. So like again, there's so many laborers out there. These two laborers say, yeah, fine, why don't we all share the risk and split the profits? Well, the capitalists will say, well, I'll just go get some other laborers who won't. We'll just take the money up front. And it's all messed up. But anyhow, let's see. Got another one here. Okay. Again, you're quoting me. It doesn't need to do so to determine if the argument is rational or not. Like, it's talking about pragmatism. You have to take practical things into consideration. You say rational arguments need to be based on contingent facts. Well, yeah. If it's more harmful to not have taxes, such is not more rational. Well, yeah, but can you prove that? Or to put it another way, saying if everyone was perfectly rational, such taxes aren't really needed. Could be perfectly rational, but so is saying if people aren't perfectly rational, taxes are needed. Well, see, that's the thing, though. If people aren't perfectly rational, you're giving your money. You're not giving it. These what may be irrational people are saying you must give money to me, even though I'm not perfectly rational. See, it's you can't have it both ways. That's why I'm saying taxes, in essence, are theft. I don't think I mean, we've been doing this the same way. What's that definition of insanity? Doing this thing the same way, expecting different results. Well, you've been taxing since, I don't know, well, income tax. We didn't even have the income tax in the U.S. to begin with. And there's apparently a dispute. Well, yes, we can do income tax. So they had to amend the Constitution to clarify whether we can tax income. Okay, it's important not to conflate what's rational in an ideal world with what's rational in a not so ideal world. No, well, a rational is rational. I mean, yes, not so ideal world, but you know, the not so ideal people are saying you must fork over basically a part of your labor to us so we can do with it as we please. Well, within, you know, as they define what is, you know, good to be done with this money. But, you know, think about, I mean, I may be giving democracy a hard time. Actually, majority rules. But, I mean, like I was saying before, the people's history of the United States, it's a history not so much the majority saying we rule, it's just people questioning authority. You're saying, look, you in authority, you're wrong. Okay, that's you know, that's what's going to happen, because it's not an ideal world. You're going to get the people, probably the least ideal people are going to get in power. You know, the most rational of us are just, you know, trying to live our lives. And there you go. I mean, anyhow. Okay, you quote me. Except for the fact that the most irrational are doing the taking and doing the most dangerous things with the money taking. This is where we disagree. Things would be far worse, consequentially, if such tax systems were not in place. How can you prove that? Regardless of some irrational or misplaced uses of tax money that happens, the benefits far exceed the problems. Now, see, that's where, I mean, that's almost like contrary to the anti-natalist philosophy, because that's what the opposition is basically saying. But there's so much good in the world. It's like they're discounting the suffering. Oh, matter of fact, I thought of an analogy for the suffering. You can't tell shit from shinola. Well, if you got some shit and some shinola, you put some shinola on the shit, what you got is shiny shit. You put the shit on shinola, you got some shitty shinola. So the shit carries more weight. So you can't say the benefits exceed the problems, because the problems carry more shit, if you will. And you go on. And again, I agree the problems need to be assessed rationally and fixed. No, I mean, I'm suggesting that taxation is part of the problem. I mean, I was reading an article that Contro Phil had me read. I should probably do that. I can do it. Well, I'll just make sure he gets this too. Called An Instrumental Argument for a Human Right to Democracy. And it's going on about how democratic forms of government are they're the best protection of individual rights among the different governments, which may be true. That doesn't mean it's the best. But there was one thing in particular in this article I found quite telling. I was going, yeah, the democracies are really good at protecting their internal, the people inside the borders, good at protecting them. What about people outside the borders? All right, I'm talking about that. What did I call it? Why is this not working? The dangerous things that are done with the tax money. So yeah. So this one sentence here. Let me just read the sentence before. First, talking about this Polity Ford Index. It's basically a 1 to 10 on how well it protects individual rights, and U.S. scores high on that. But I'll just quote here. Second, torture, extrajudicial murder, and disappearance is often inflicted by states for non-political reasons, as when suspected criminals are tortured in detention centers. This is why the United States, which is an outlier in these arguments, I don't know how much of an outlier, but whatever, scores a 3 on the political terror scale, while being a 10 on the Polity 4 scale. In other words, they're really good at protecting its citizens, but they go around the world terrorizing people. So, I mean, that's a big negative. I mean, I don't think the United States is the only democratic society that does that. Well, maybe not as bad as the United States. We scored a 3. What do the other ones score? They say the United States is an outlier, but states are violent institutions. It's pretty much a fact. They have a monopoly on the violence. Anyhow, I guess that's all I got. So, I think there's other stuff out there I might have not downloaded, and some other stuff I think I already responded to. But anyhow, there you go. Take care. Okay, yeah. There was some more comments from Trick. I don't know if I put this at the beginning or the end, because it doesn't matter. But anyhow. Okay. He says, thanks again. You're welcome. I don't think we need to get consent to take money that people shouldn't be rationally owning to begin with. Well, see, that's what you need to show, though. I think I mentioned it already, is, taxing income is different than, let's say, public control of natural resources. Those are two different things. Anyhow, you go on. Yes, there needs to be a system in place that takes such so it can be distributed. See, I think that's where we're getting maybe maybe that's where we're major disagreement. Taking control of the natural resources is different than taxing income. Anyhow, that's where the state gets the right. Well, again, back to the natural resources versus income tax. or tax in general. They don't have a right to use it poorly. I agree. Well, they don't have a right to take it. I still haven't heard a justification for taking from, if you're working, you're not out there just grabbing resources. You're working. It's different than just grabbing up all the resources. That's not what I'm doing. Yet I've been taxed all my life. I've never gone out there and grabbed some natural resources. Anyhow, I agree that procreation is irrational, but your idea all comes down to the wrong notion. You seem to think the state is irrational, when in fact we create the state and any of its irrationality. Well, I don't know what to say to that. But more importantly, the harms that exist with the state are far less than if the state did not exist. See, I don't think you can prove that. You're just saying it like there's some counterexample. I mean, there was I was watching some Chomsky, like, refreshing my memory of. So I've read a lot of Chomsky and I've seen a lot of Chomsky lectures, and he points out that there was like an anarcho-syndicalist type region in Spain in the Spanish Revolution of, I don't know, 39 or something like that. But it was beaten down by a more powerful entity, probably a state of some sort, and that they were doing okay, but powers that be didn't like that because it showed that, hey, maybe there is a different way. Anyhow, this is what you need to contend with if you are a consequentialist like I am. If you aren't a consequentialist, we have another thing to battle: rational ethics. Well, I mean, I had this battle with Big Lundy way back when. He was accusing antinatalists of being hedonistic consequentialist. And of course, the way he was defining consequentialist is if the outcome's good, then what you did was good, which is, I think, that narrows the idea of what a consequentialist is. Yeah, consequences are important. Rational ethics is, ethics means conduct. How should we conduct ourselves? Well, it's pretty basic. Don't harm or threaten to harm somebody else. It's pretty simple. Okay, so now you're going to put this in the form, but let's put this in the form of a thought experiment. And right there, when I read that, I thought we were going to get in trouble because unless it's clear cut, I don't particularly like thought experiments. Like the red button thought experiment is clear cut. You either push the button or you don't. It's not complicated. Push the button, everybody basically drops dead. Do you push it or not? I would. I'd probably be hesitating though, because I mean, this is all there is. It's just sad that people went through all this, and the other sentient beings went through all this trouble, and then it's just over. Whatever. Anyhow, imagine a plane crashes containing 30 people. All survive, but they are stranded on an island with limited food resources. The plane sends out a beacon, and the chances are that someone will find them within a week or two max. Aboard the plane was a large metal box with plenty of food in it. See right there, a large metal box with plenty of food in it. I mean, I guess you're good. That's supposedly you're analogizing that to natural resources. Well, it's a metal box with food in it. It belongs to somebody, probably one of those 30, right? Somebody owns that box of food. Now, again, you're getting into an emergency situation. I mean, it's not like just everybody's walking about gathering natural resources. But anyhow, I would say it probably belongs to the airlines, right? For emergencies. It belongs to somebody. Whatever. A group of 5 people find this box. See, I'm not, I go out there and work. I'm not finding money. I'm working for it. I'm just finding it. They also think that because they were the ones that found it, that they now own the food per the rule of finders keepers. I never said anything about finders keepers. I'm talking about working. I go out there and I work. That's me. Even the anarcho-capitalists, the Mises.org people, they talk about that's how you own things, by working for them, not just finding them. You have to actually add value to it. Even if you just find an apple tree, you have to work. You have to gather the apples. You can't just say, this apple tree's mine, I found it. Anyhow, I mean, yeah, I mean, what a bunch of pricks, right? We found this metal box that apparently obviously belongs to somebody, so now it's ours. Anyhow, they don't want to share the box. Yeah, they're assholes. See, like I said, well, I mean, I guess we need to get. I need to find out what your take is on this distinction between taxing and public control of natural resources. I think that's a big distinction. Anyhow, after all, according to them, it's their food. Well, no, it's somebody else's food. It's a metal box. All right? It belongs to somebody, probably the pilots. That's the thing about these thought experiments, you know, like the one about, you know, if the trolley, if they've done studies where, yeah, the trolley or the train, whatever, it can go two directions. You got your hand on the lever, and it's either gonna, if you don't move the lever, it's gonna kill 5 people. If you move the lever, it's only gonna kill 1. And you know, a good majority of people would switch the lever. But when you change the experiment to where you gotta throw the fat guy in front of the trolley, well, the numbers go down. It's basically the same thing. One person is going to die instead of 5, but now you're actually throwing somebody in front of the trolley. I mean, and the whole thing about those kind of that particular thought experiment is, well, what if the one person is, you know, in the future going to do a whole lot of good for a whole lot of people, and the other 5 are going to die of ALS or something like that? Then what do you do? Like I say, these thought experiments, unless they're really simple and clear cut, your mind just starts, you know, making up different things about the thought experiment. Like you're saying it's a metal box with plenty of food. It belongs to somebody. You know, didn't just magically appear. Anyhow, let's see. The other 25 could take the food and then assign someone to ration and distribute it evenly. See, again, you're assuming that those 5 are just assholes. I mean, that's the whole thing. And, you know, I'm saying, yeah, there's assholes in the world, and they get into power. So, you know, they take the food, take their cut, and then give it to everybody else. Well, they take a big cut. I mean, taxes in general, 50% goes to guns, 50% goes to butter. The old guns and butter thing, right? Well, I mean, we got more guns than the rest of the world combined, right? Just about, you know, first cut. I mean, so all that's money. You know, I'm sure you've heard the Eisenhower quote: "Every dollar spent on a gun is a slap in the face to the poor with no food." Of course, the poor with no food are in there buying because they're making more mouths to feed, because they're grateful to God. They're omnipotent God at that. They're grateful to it, a being with unlimited power. Yet, man, that one's just stuck in my head. Just stupefies me. Anyhow. Now imagine if I said that for the other 25 to take the food, such as theft. Well, again, see, like I said, we already have a problem, because the metal box with food belongs to somebody. And it was probably put there by the airlines in case of an emergency. So, divvy the food out. It's an emergency. So, should I even bother going on? I don't know. I mean, you're just going on and on and on. It's a really long thought experiment. But you're basically trying to justify income tax, but it's not the same thing. Nobody worked for that food. Well, somebody did. It belongs to somebody. But, so, I mean, it's apples and oranges here, if you ask me. If you disagree, let me know. Because, it's a long thought experiment, man. Let's just see, get to the bottom. Yes, the state is far from perfect. That's an understatement. And many things need to change, but without it, we are handing over the reins to the irrational 5 people. Well, not necessarily. I mean, the irrational 5 could be the ones in, with the power. So, yeah, people who don't care about the well-being of everyone else and letting them have what they never really owned to begin with. Well, again, are we talking about taxes, or are we talking about just saying I own this oil well, not just the well that they built, but all the oil in the ground? Oh yeah, I made a comment to Contro Phil about what I'm talking about here. Basically, is if I build a well, it's a water well. Okay, just forget about oil for now. Just a water well. I build a well, the classic well with the bucket and everything, right? It's my well. The water in the ground is not mine. Okay, but the well is. If you want to come use my well, I mean, if you show up to me and you're all dehydrated and you're about to die, hey, here, let's have some water, buddy. Have at it. But now, if you're going to come here every day and take a bunch of my water using my well and then selling it to somebody else, oh, now we got a problem. Dig your own well. The water's. You can build a well right next to mine, but that well is mine. You see the difference? I own the well, not the water in the ground. So, okay. Take care.